comfortable and ready.
Oh, right.
You want us to roll? You comfortable? Ready?
Got speed.
Okay, you want to roll it?
Mm-hmm.
And we have speed, and it's on.
Sir Richard, I have looked forward to this time when I could talk with you again, and little did I know that it would be for this project, Gandhi. Magnificent film, an important film, a film that we'll be looking at 20 years from now and saying, now there's a movie. So congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I don't know if you're as much a fatalist as I am, but most people would not have the tenacity to stick with something 20 years. And yet, I find in my own life that this kind of thing, there's always the right time for something to happen. Now, do you feel that prolonging this 20 years in the long run has been a good thing?
Well, the short answer is yes, but for a number of practical reasons, quite apart from the belief that at present there seems to be an extraordinary upsurge of interest, particularly amongst younger people, as to how the world ultimately is going to continue to exist until we reassess in some way our fundamental attitudes related nation to nation. But putting that to one side, there are two very practical reasons why it's a miracle that it's now and not before. One, I would never have got the screenplay that we in fact have achieved in the last 2 or 3 years, written by Jack Briley. And secondly, of course, I would never have cast Ben Kingsley, because if I'd made it 15 years ago, Ben would have been in his early 20s, and there would be no way in which he could have played this character starting in early 20s and going through to the age of 79. He would have been too young. And since both you and other people and I too feel that Ben's performance is little short of miraculous, I don't think the film would have had that particular element to anything like the degree if it hadn't been Ben Kingsley.
The film was made, of course, with the cooperation and somewhat financial support of the government of India.
Yes.
To what extent did they have control, or did they have the right to say no, please don't do that, or their input?
I don't know what right they would have claimed. In fact, they exercised none. They approved the making of the film nearly 20 years ago. They have never changed that attitude. Their investment in the film, to the extent of about 1/3 of the capital required, is a pure investment. It has nothing to do with control whatsoever. And they did not ask for one element, not one syllable, to be changed in the entire script. Whatever is in the script or not in the script is rightly or wrongly my decision. The Indian government, and Mrs. Gandhi in particular, the Prime Minister, did not ask for any conditions whatsoever.
Some people, and particularly people who don't know much about Gandhi, might make an assessment and say, well, the man was either a saint or an eccentric.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think he's midway between the two. I mean, it depends what you mean by a saint. I mean, I think he is a saintly man in that he is as good a man, or he became as good a man as I can recall, other than those who are gods or saints. But as a man, I don't know one who exemplified all that I believe to be proper human conduct to a greater extent than he. There are those who think he was a highly sophisticated, devious politician. I think that his own judgment is a very good one. He said, I am not a saint trying to be a politician. He said, I am a politician trying desperately and failing to be a saint. I think that he is as remarkable as any man that has lived. I think he's had more influence for good not evil. I mean, the great despots of the last century have had a massive effect upon human conduct, but effect related to good, related to decent behavior and the respect for human dignity. I don't know anybody who's had the same respect and had the same effect. And to that extent, I think he's unique. But I would hate him to be thought of as a god of some kind. The greatness was that he was a man.
Sir Richard, had you ever had the opportunity to talk with Gandhi, what might you have asked him?
You know, nobody's ever asked me that question. I think I would probably have asked him how important he thought in his lifetime his success or failure was. He succeeded on many levels. He failed on a number of other levels in his objectives. And I think that I would wish to know how important he believed that what we all care about should be materially apparent during our own lifetime. In other words, because this is what I happen to believe, that his time on earth will be seen in its stature, and I think greatness, in 50 and 100 and 200 years' time. I don't think necessarily it had to happen before he was murdered in 1948. And it would be very interesting to know whether he ended up feeling that he had achieved or not achieved the majority of his objectives. I don't think anybody knows that answer, and I would love to know what it was.
Very quickly, Sir Richard, one last question, and that is, the crowd scenes, I don't think I've ever seen, are they, in fact, the biggest crowd scenes that have ever been filmed for a feature?
Oh, I think certainly in the Western world, Western world, yes, I mean Western world, vis-à-vis Russia. I don't know whether the great Einstein, some of the epics in Russia would exceed the figures. I don't think Griffiths, even in his great classic pictures, I mean, we have one or two scenes. There's one scene where there are something like 400,000 people in the crowd.
Is that the funeral scene?
That's the funeral, yes. And I'm not I can't believe that there's ever been a crowd of that size and that scale. And I also don't believe possibly that it would have been a viable proposition anywhere other than in India. The great thing about India is that wherever you go and wherever you are, the crowds are phenomenal. You've never seen so many people. It's quite overwhelming at a time. I mean, it's marvelous if you want them for the funeral, but if you want an isolated little scene between two people, actually just outside the frame of the picture are 50 policemen holding back 25,000 people, and that becomes a problem. But it is a marvelous attribute as far as India is concerned, that there for you, if you require epic proportions, there are hundreds of thousands of people available.
Well, Sir Richard, I'm sure you will make many more films, but if you never made another one, it wouldn't matter because you have left your legacy with Gandhi. Congratulations, Sir Richard.
It's a very sweet thing to say. Thank you very
Beautiful
much
film.
indeed. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay.